So there are a couple of different variations of the Evo 10 by Aoshima. There are pretty much a couple of the same kits. There are some pre-painted kits, and there are also some aftermarket versions, one with a C West body kit, also a couple with rally art stuff. The main kit itself is pretty much the same. A couple things they changed are the wheels, the hood, the spoiler, maybe even the rear bumper, side skirts, and the front bumper as well, but the main part in between is pretty much the same as far as I know. So let's jump into it, go through the box quickly, and then into a bit more detail. So let's start off with the first sprue, and that is the chassis. Now straight away you can see that this kit does not come with an engine and is not overly detailed on the chassis and engine side. The exhaust is molded in one piece pretty much. The back end is a separate piece, as with the different versions you get an aftermarket exhaust as well sometimes. Now it does look really nicely detailed, but with the exhaust and drive shaft being molded in one piece, that makes it a lot harder to paint and detail it. Nevertheless, the details are there, so if you take your time, it can of course be done. As I just mentioned, the exhaust on the back end is a separate piece. This of course is the stock one, and with some of the other versions you get an aftermarket one, mostly molded in chrome with a bit of a different look to it, and of course a style, as that probably in the actual real world would make a bit more noise and also maybe gain some performance out of it. With there not being an engine and really no detail for the engine, there is just one big cover like the actual car to cover that all up, and you can add a couple different colors to make it look nice, but nothing really more to be done there. There are some parts for the rear, drive line pieces and stuff like that, some more of the body components like the wipers and the plate behind. Of course, you get some of these Brembo calipers that look to be the same front and rear, which is a bit weird because I'm pretty sure they are not the same on the actual car. You also get some mesh, some of the grills for in the front bumper. Oh wait, that's the front brakes. That explains why you have 4 rears. Of course. Some more suspension components. It doesn't really have any springs on here as they are separate pieces, and therefore it is a sort of working suspension. Wait, let's take a step back. I was wrong. The suspension is not working at all. You can just have it raised or lowered by adding some spacers in between. So no separate suspension or springs, just some lowering and raising components, as you can see here. And of course, with a chassis comes some wheels. Now, since this is the final edition, the last Evo that was supposed to be produced, or at least the Evo 10 that is, and therefore also the last Evo, as Mitsubishi is not going to be making anymore, they were painted in a bronze gold finish. Now for the novice builder that isn't really that experienced, that is a nice feature, but for the more experienced builder who wants them to be in a different color, that can be a bit of a pain, as you don't really know what paint they used and if it's compatible with your paints, and you'd have to test it and run the probability of ruining the wheels if you paint them. So luckily it's not that bad of a color, but maybe if you want to change color, it's best to go with a different wheel set. And with some wheels, of course, you get some tires as well. These are 4 of the same tires, nicely molded. They do have a bit of excess rubber in the middle where the mold comes together, but with a bit of sanding that can be fixed. It even has the tire sizes written on the side, and the tire brand as well. So nicely detailed there. Of course, some more polycaps to add to your collection. With this being an Evo and not a regular Lancer, you also get some nice Recaro seats. Now, they don't have backings, that is a separate piece, but they do look a bit sharp on some of the corners. I think they look pretty well replicating the original, but I'm not overly excited. I need to think about this before I'm going to be using them, but with a bit of paint it mostly clears it up and makes it look a bit better. The rear seat, main interior tub, and center console are molded in one. It does have a lot of nice details, but with this being one piece, it can be a bit harder to paint, as these are some fine details, but not really that big of a deal. As you can see, here are the seat backs, a nice steering wheel with some details, a couple of buttons, the steering column, and if you want to go for the automatic version, you also have the paddle shifters. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. In this case, there is only one dashboard and only one option for the driver's side, and in this case, it's a right-hand drive car. Now, you do get the option between a manual and automatic, the shifter options, the pedal options, and a nicely detailed door card. So overall, not too bad, though I would have liked the addition of a left-hand drive dashboard. Now, normally you get a ton of chrome parts in a lot of the kits. In this case, pretty much only the ones that you need. Of course, the light backing, or at least the housing, front and rear, the rear view mirrors, and the exhaust tips. I'm not sure if I will be using these exhaust tips, but if I will, the shape is there. I just need to repaint them probably. So as I had mentioned before, this kit is available in a couple different versions with different front rear bumpers and additional extras. So the bumpers are molded separately to make it easier for them to produce more of these kits without making an entirely new body. Now the front bumper in this case is a couple pieces. You're of course missing the main grille part here, which makes it easier as that needs to be painted black 9 out of 10 times, or if you want to add some carbon fiber decals, that would make it a lot easier as well. Now they did pre-drill the holes for the license plate holder. Not a big fan because I probably need to fill that, and that doesn't really work out all that well, as mostly they will still remain visible, so I'd have to think about that twice. Now, of course, the rear bumper is also molded separately. You don't really get as much pieces as the front. The diffuser piece needs to be in a different color, mainly just black plastic, and with it molded into the bumper itself, that makes it a bit harder to do. Still doable, but if they do it at the front, why not at the rear as well? Continuing the same story, the hood is also a separate piece, and so is the wing, of course. Now this is just the stock one. With the other versions you get a bit more of aggressive bumpers and also hoods as well. These are the parts I was talking about earlier that raise the car, or lower it if you prefer. Some more parts for behind the bumper, the license plate holders, and the rear wing. To finish the separate body part series off, these are the side skirts. Now that we've seen all the separate body parts, here of course is the main body itself. This is the part that is the same in all the kits. This one is molded in white luckily, so you can pretty much paint it in any color you want without running the risk of the plastic color bleeding through. I also have one in a red. That was the first kit they came out with, and that is a lot harder if you want to paint it in a bright color, let's say white or yellow. The red will probably come through, so that's not really that good to do. But luckily this one is white. All the panel lines are nicely molded in, nice and deep, and just need a little bit of attention, not too much. The mold lines are not really that visible as the hood is a separate piece, and on the rear they are nicely hidden. For the bumpers, they also provide you with a bit of mesh. Just need to cut it to shape and then glue it in. With this being a stock street version, there are not really that many decals like sponsor decals and that stuff, so just a basic decal sheet with the absolute bare minimum. couple of nice license plates, some Brembo logos for on the calipers, of course the Mitsubishi logos, and some BBS logos for on the wheels, the Recaro for on the seat, and some of the dials for the instrument cluster as well. Even though they did not provide you with a left or right-hand drive option, just the right-hand drive, they did add a couple of these stickers for on the clear parts, which makes it a lot easier to paint that black surrounding. Speaking of the clear parts, there are a couple of different sprues for the clear parts, some molded in red and some in orange to make it easier so you don't have to paint it. That's a really big plus point. And there is, of course, also the main clear part itself. The main clear part is one big piece with the front, rear, and side windows. They also have a headliner molded in, and it comes with some factory installed scratches as well. Weirdly enough, they have identical scratches on the left and right hand side. You can't really see it that well, but it is here. And that one continues on the rear window as well. Not that big of a deal if you're going to be tinting the rear windows, but it's not really that nice to see these scratches already in there without me even touching these. Nevertheless, the clear parts are nicely clear. They have a good edge for that pre-cut mask to be installed onto, and also some nice details for on the front and rear lenses, and also some other miscellaneous clear parts as well.